It has been indicated that Zach Lavine may want a trade away from the Chicago Bulls after the team has been struggling to find success once again this season, and he is officially fed up with it. And we are going to break this down because there have been a ton of Zach Lavine Knicks rumors over the years. The Knicks have proven to have had interest in the past, so we are going to take a look at all of this and some potential Zach Lavine trades and just sort of talk about the fit. So let's jump right into that. Welcome back to Knicks Digest, guys. My name is Chris, and we are going to jump right into things as we always do. So you heard me correctly. Yes, Zach Lavine is officially fed up with the fact that he has seen one playoff series in his entire career, and he's spent 7 years on the Chicago Bulls. 3 years before that, he was on the Minnesota Timberwolves while they were in that huge playoff drought. He was integral to getting the Timberwolves back in the playoffs, as he was the main piece in the trade that brought Jimmy Butler to the Minnesota Timberwolves, where things worked pretty well for one season before everything went up in flames. Obviously, there was that third string in Jimmy Butler versus the starters thing because Jimmy did not think Towns and Wiggins were taking things seriously. Butler beats all of them, says you can't win without me, then gets traded to Philadelphia, and the Timberwolves start to be bad again. And while all of that was happening, Zach Lavine was missing the playoffs with the Chicago Bulls the entire time. Now, it's not Zach Lavine's fault. It really wasn't. That team was bad. All those Bulls teams were really bad. Zach Lavine was by himself for the majority of these times. Then there was that offseason where 5 seconds into it, Lonzo Ball signs that deal with the Chicago Bulls, and DeMar DeRozan soon follows. DeRozan signed this deal with the Bulls because of Zach Lavine, which shows who Zach Lavine is as a player. It shows that he is a hard worker who wants to win. That is very important to note. However, things didn't go so well once Lonzo Ball got hurt, because they were the first seed for a while. And this was because Lonzo Ball was running an offense that was only able to work because Lonzo was able to make the offense work with 3 guys as their best players, DeRozan, Lavine, Vucevic, who all wanted to score the basketball. All of them are scorers. And this whole team was formulated from February of that season to the offseason the following summer, which was 2021. All of this happened in 5 months of 2021. The Chicago Bulls completely revamped their roster, and nothing changed. They were still around a 10th seed because Lonzo went down with an injury after they were the first seed, and the Bulls forgot how to play basketball because they did not have another floor general to pick up the slack for Lonzo being gone. And things became isolation basketball in a way that the Bulls did not like it, and no one was happy with the way that they were playing. And now that seemingly has happened once again, because if we just take a look at this here, essentially what is going on is that The Athletic is reporting that Lavine has been the one constant for the Bulls since the Jimmy Butler trade into 2017, which we've talked about, and he's the face of the franchise, but they have not succeeded in building a winning team around Lavine or even with Lavine on the roster. Lavine signed a 5-year, $215 million max contract prior to the 22-23 season, but the Bulls missed the playoffs last year. And now they're off to a 4-7 start this season, and that's accelerated the timeline for Lavine and the Bulls to consider other options. I understand that the main reason why the Chicago Bulls have really struggled is because they're not having a point guard, because they're really waiting on Lonzo Ball to come back. But, I mean, nothing's changed. Ever since Lavine has been there, the only thing that's gone on is Lavine's numbers have moved around. So, obviously, Lavine had his first 3 years with the Timberwolves where he steadily improved. He then got injured in his first Bulls season. He re-injured his knee, I believe, and then only averaged 16 points per game. The next season, he jumps up to 23, then 25, then 27, then down to 24 twice, and now he's at 22 points per game. Something to highlight, though, is that Lavine is shooting really poorly this season. He's usually around 40% from 3, has a career average of 38% from deep and 46% from the field. Both those numbers are down. He's shooting 31% from 3 and 31% from the field. And if you look, his free throw numbers have not changed, making things even weirder. I'm going to guess that the reason because of that is because Lavine is not happy with the Bulls anymore. As I said, the man is now in season number 10. He's played 5 playoff games in his career, not counting play-in games. Those were against the Milwaukee Bucks. They lost 4-1 in that series. Everyone knew what was going to happen in that series. They knew the Bucks were going to run through the Bulls, and they absolutely did. It was either a 2-7 or a 1-8 matchup. We all knew what was coming with this series. And Lavine's upset with it. He's never winning. He's never seen a winning team. All of his teams have been bad for his entire career. He's in year number 10. He's 28 years old. He has had a very good career for himself, but there has not been any success around him. And is this his fault? Not really. Because sure, they got DeRozan, and DeRozan wanted to go there because of Lavine. And then they also brought in Lonzo. They had Vucevic already from the trade prior where they sent out Wendell Carter and those first-round picks. And then look what happened. Wendell Carter came into his own. So you have to start blaming the Chicago Bulls for this. And that makes me really think that Zach Lavine wants out, and that's why he is not playing as well. That does, however, not excuse what this Bleacher Report trade is saying for the Knicks to do. Because this said the Knicks should trade R.J. Barrett, Evan Fournier, and 2 first-round picks, one in 2024 and one in 2027 for Zach Lavine. And it's basically saying the Knicks have a ton of future assets and multiple movable contracts. And also, they would not have to give all of that up for Zach Lavine. While they've also been in the mix for Donovan Mitchell and Joel Embiid and other guys like that. Also Zion Williamson. They could trade for Lavine and essentially not give up the entire farm, which I think they're saying is the main incentive to doing this. And then also that Evan Fournier is not part of the team's plans. And then they said there still might be untapped potential for R.J. Barrett, who is starting to feel as if him developing to the player Lavine is now would be a long shot at best. And Barrett isn't good at long shots. I mean, you just got to assume that this person has not watched a second of New York Knicks basketball in the 2023-24 season because, as we all know, R.J. Barrett is having a very great season for himself, where we are seeing him shoot 50% from 3. If you look here, he's averaging 22 points per game, 22.5, which is higher than Zach Lavine. He's shooting 50% from 3, which is higher than Lavine. He's shooting 49% from the field. He's also shooting 85% from the free throw line. So maybe R.J. Barrett just figured out how to shoot, and I'm aware that no, he is not going to shoot 50% all season. But for a guy who historically starts very slow, the fact that R.J. Barrett is out here outplaying Zach Lavine when the Knicks are also going through a little bit of turmoil because they have no offense whatsoever that is actually set up because it's all freelance, similar to Chicago, RJ's still playing better. The Knicks should not do an R.J. Barrett for Zach Lavine trade straight up. I said it, and I will stand by that. I will die on that hill. It would make no sense for the Knicks to trade R.J. Barrett for Zach Lavine in any facet. Especially not when you're giving up a 2024 and 2027 pick. And it sounds like they're basically saying those picks are unprotected because they didn't go into any sort of protection on them. Which is just a ridiculous, ridiculous trade. That is insane. RJ is a far better defender. He has played better offense this season. He's been better at every facet of basketball than Zach Lavine this season. So no, the Knicks should not do this trade. And the Knicks are not going to get Zach Lavine at all. Because if we take a look here, welcome to the family, Zach Lavine, at Clutch Sports. Now, there was recently a video on Knicks Digest called Knicks Linked to Zach Lavine Trade. LeBron speaks out on the Knicks, where essentially LeBron talked about his time with, really Rich Paul talked about LeBron's Knicks stuff with almost signing with the Knicks 2 different times, but really the one time in 2010. And then also going into Zach Lavine. And because our content creator just had no idea what he was talking about, which y'all had no problem mentioning, it was me. Oh, guys, that was me. Yeah, so essentially what happened is I said that Zach Lavine was a member of CAA. I would later correct myself at the end of the video, but essentially what happened was I was thinking of LeBron just being a CAA client in 2010 and got things mixed up. There's a lot going on up in the brain, guys. Sometimes you mess stuff up. It is what it is. We're okay. We will survive. The main thing is here, Zach Lavine is a Clutch Sports client. Clutch Sports does not like CAA. They're rivals. They're not going to want Zach Lavine on the Knicks. This has already come out, guys. So I do not think that Zach Lavine is going to end up on the Knicks at all. I just don't see it happening. I do not see it happening, and especially for a trade that looks anything like this, I don't see it happening. I don't want to give up any of the starters for Zach Lavine, especially not R.J. Barrett. No, absolutely not. No. Next, let's go to a different trade talk like Zion Williamson or something fun like that, which actually makes sense within the organization. And not going out, getting 28-year-old Zach Lavine, who's having one of the worst seasons that he's had in recent memory, as I said, probably due to frustration, but it does not matter. He's still having a bad season. And if you saw a recent Scott Perry quote, what he said on a podcast is that if a player's disgruntled, there's a good chance they're going to be just disgruntled wherever they go because all they're going to look for is what they initially had with the first team when they were happy. And that's all that there is to say about this, guys. Zach Lavine's not coming to the Knicks. If I had to guess where he's going to go, I would see it being the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's not the New York Knicks, though. It would not benefit the Knicks because then they'd have to see Zach Lavine and Joel Embiid together for 4 times a year, which I don't love. However, that is all that we have to talk about today on the topic of Zach Lavine and the New York Knicks. We go into a lot of trade stuff, I know, and we will try to make a little more different variations of videos. This is definitely the last one we're going to make on Zach Lavine in a while, unless somehow he were going to be traded to the New York Knicks. But that doesn't feel realistic. So I just want to get this out there, essentially say, nope, the Knicks are not getting Zach Lavine, especially because clearly the prices are just different from each side. And that is going to stop that from ever happening if the CAA Clutch Sports thing was not. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, it helps me out a ton. And that's really all I got. So once a Knick, always a Knick, and go Knicks. I'll catch you guys on the next one.